Hail, hail, the Celts are here, and what the hell do we care now? We're back on a Thursday night for a wee bit of Sorare CSC before we get stuck into some weekend action off the back of a little piece of our own Champions League history. And I'm Quinny as always, and I'm joined by McBrideACE. McBride, hail, hail, good to see you.
Hail, hail, good evening. It's nice to be coming on after not watching European game from behind your couch. Yeah, a great result. So always positive. Loads of games coming up. Loads of stuff to discuss. Looking forward to it.
And in booking the stream tonight, I had to check when was the last time we did one of these, and it was actually after the Dortmund game. It was the last time we managed to get together.
Yeah.
I think you were away gallivanting for a wee bits of some bits and bobs here and there, which is all good. But what a great time to come back a week or so later. I think we've had some international football in the middle of all that as well, which just kind of helps. Where's the specs went?
I took them off because I've been trying to get into the 21st century and making the light bright and everything. But then when I do that, then like the light shining into my glasses. Look.
Oh yeah.
I thought I'd just take them
pop
off.
star. It's a pop star, look, McBride.
I wouldn't go that far. I've had a haircut tonight though, so that's as far as it goes, really, to be honest. So,
but no, it's a good one because I think it just caught me off guard there. So I was between screens, and when I came back, to it, I was like, "Oh Jesus, what's happening here? Is there a gag I've missed or something?" Yeah. But it's been an active couple of weeks certainly since we were last together, and like I mentioned at the kind of tip off there, off the back of our own little slice of history, an away draw where in the Champions League against a top seeded opposition, like if this was in the old group stage, Atalanta being the Europa League holders would be pot one. And I don't know how the pot system really did work this time around, if it was much different, but and a clean sheet. It doesn't really, in watching the game, like for everyone that's watched Celtic in Europe over the last 10 or 15 years, like in the Europa League, it feels a bit different. It feels like we're going shoulder to shoulder with people all over the pitch. In Champions League, it's not felt like that. But last night, like, for me, there was a real different feeling, like just watching the game and seeing them going toe to toe with them.
Yeah, I think the difference is we weren't 5-1 down at half time. That's probably the biggest difference. Yeah, I mean,
definitely true.
Yeah, it was a different type of performance. I think that when you're watching it, used to seeing like Celtic maybe controlling games and controlling possession and things, but it was good to see a sort of different attitude. And I don't think the tactics were hugely different, but in a way they were different, if that makes sense, because against Dortmund it was all like this guy's running after the ball and this guy's doing this, and whereas we looked like we were actually playing as a football team. And I know that's like a sweeping statement, but if you beat 7-1, then you're not going to look like you're playing as a team. So I thought it was really good, to be honest. We still showed some signs of like the point where maybe one good ball or one break of the ball or one wee movement or one pass might have got us in. But when I was watching the game, I was just thinking, like, you see like Atalanta and Maeda's trying to run a guy and all their defenders all have pace and things. You're watching your team play against a top level team, and it was good. We rode our luck at certain points. They hit the bar, all that type of stuff. But you're not going to go away to a pot one team, as you say, and they'll not have any chances at all. So to get a draw there, I think leaves us a bit above par in terms of where we thought we were going to be at this point.
Yeah, big time. And it was a good performance from front to back. The defence, very rightly so, take a lot of the plaudits in this one. But like you say, it was the team that kind of was the biggest part of it. Like we really did see them go man for man against all these guys. And yeah, maybe some of them you see where their levels at the moment or where their ceiling is, like Dyson. Like it doesn't feel like any of those runs he made, like it really came out with them for the better in terms of coming away with the ball or anything like that. And really, when it was all said and done, there was a shock was not impossible the way the game went, and the way, that we tried to attack them and all the rest of it. So, it was, there was a wee bit of a sobering up to the level of some of the guys in the team, but there was also, I think, like, a bit of a level up from a lot of them in maybe a different way. And I think Kuhn, for me, was maybe a wee bit more effective when you look at the wide players. Outside of Hatate, Kuhn was the only one really for me that was, like, there was times in the game where Kuhn was in the back four, when we were just like building the wall in front of the box and letting them play on the outside of the game, as it were. And then if he did get involved in it, he was getting out of the little space, breaking into some space, and It was like him and Hatate just, they were just too anxious. They were just too like, oh my God, it's happening. I've got the ball on my way into space and just try and play it too quick or just mishit it somehow or didn't quite come off. But there was like, for every big chance miss they had, there was probably one of them for us where it was like a big opportunity uncreated. Is maybe the way to think of it.
Yeah, it's a learning curve, but I mean, like you've went from one extreme to another because everything that Dortmund hit went into the net, and even
Yeah,
at one each in Dortmund, they've hit a shot that wasn't even in going in, and it did go in, and it was one of those nights. Whereas we had one of those nights where Casper was solid, and they had a really good chance, and it hit the bar and all that sort of stuff. But it's a weird one because it didn't really feel as if they were like totally peppering our goal. I think we actually held them off quite well, if you know what I mean. So okay, they had a few chances or whatever, but it was stuff from like crosses into the box. It wasn't like they were playing right through the middle of us like Dortmund were, and I was quite impressed. Firstly, Johnson get booked quite early on, and you're thinking, right, he's walking in eggshells, and he played really well, real mature performance after getting booked early. Trusty was really good actually, so maybe it suited him a wee
think so.
bit better. I still think Atalanta are maybe as aggressive in terms of pressing the ball as some other teams, but he had a really good game, and I'm struggling to think anything he done sort of majorly wrong in the game, if that makes sense. And then didn't really miss Greg Taylor either. I mean, maybe that would have been a game which would have suited him a bit better as well. But you've put a young guy there in Valley, and didn't look out of place in that type of competition. And this is a team playing at home that won a European trophy last season. So I think there's a lot of pats on the backs to be given out there, or a lot of experience gained in terms of those young guys who really should take a bit of belief on that they can play in that competition now.
Yeah, for sure. I did think Valley did pretty well in the game, to be honest with you. I did catch myself thinking earlier today, like, I wonder how Taylor would have done. So I said in my preview, like, or maybe it was before the preview, because I think we knew Taylor wasn't going to make it. But I remember saying in the last week or so, because I've just been making videos on the channel, I've not had as many lives and all the rest of it, somewhere that Taylor is kind of earned the Atalanta game, like, over the last 3 seasons for me. Like, if he's fit and he's capable of playing, then I could see him coming in for this. And as I don't know, after the game, I'm undecided whether, like, if Taylor did play, like, he could have maybe, had a wee bit of redemption from his just European career to date. He could have maybe shown, like, I have got better, because that's kind of what we're after at this stage. Like we've seen, and I think, like, obviously, I'm a big Scales fan anyway, but I do think, like, that's the best game Scales has ever played, like, by a distance. He was brilliant the whole game, like, didn't get anything by him. He did get caught out maybe once or twice going for, like, a long ball from their goalkeeper and stuff, but I thought, yeah, the defense was like the shining light of it all. Like, Trusty as well, he's just so much more eager to, like, take 5 yards with the ball, and he can do it, like, a little bit quicker. So it was, like, quite nice to see, because Scales kind of does that as well, and that's maybe when normally people get worried about Scales, if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
But it's still a quality you want your defense to have, is just to quickly, like, get the ball out of defense, well, without just punting it to nowhere. So, like, yeah, the
yeah.
whole defense, I think, were absolute heroes of Alistair Johnson as well, all the way through it.
Yeah, it was, and also like not to take it away from the defenders as well. I thought they were all really, really good, but they got actually some protection in the game as well. The issue in Dortmund was that Dortmund were going through the midfield, and it would be a nice touch from Guy saying somebody would be running at the defence, and the defence were starting to run backwards. So we got the tactics a bit better because I thought we maybe, as a block, we sat a wee bit deeper, and Rogers gave this big spiel about not just sitting behind the ball, but you can lower the defensive line a wee bit and just be mindful of the fact that we've not got guys who are really quick or whatever, and just be a bit more pragmatic. There is one of the phrases that he doesn't always like for some reason. But and then in front of that, I've seen a few comments about guys like Engels, etc. But I thought actually it was quite a mature performance from him, because like it's hard to see it sometimes, but his best stuff you see in a lot of games is where he's bursting forward, and he's doing this and he's doing that and he's doing all the things he's good at. But all of a sudden, then we're asking him to be organised, and there was a huge improvement from the Dortmund game, and that's a sign of a top player, because only taking him one game to adjust and follow the instructions of what the team's doing. And that actually, although it might not look like a brilliant performance overall, like to be able to go and do that away from home in Europe, it's actually really encouraging. at that age. And Nicholas Kuhn, I mean, like he put in some shift to help out Alistair Johnson there and started to look a bit dangerous going the other way as well. So I think that's a massive positive because we've all seen how he's been playing, how he's been sort of terrorising people going forward and getting his goals and assists. But what he done for the team helped that clean sheet as well, which was absolutely brilliant. I was struggling to see any major negatives. I mean, I think maybe Maeda's kind of back on one of those pieces of form where you're thinking he's going to hit Rose Ed, but he's still giving it all the effort for the team and contributing. And I thought that, yeah, I mean, he's playing against good players, but I didn't think Ida's hold-up play was that good. I thought sometimes that when we passed the ball out, we looked after the ball okay, and Hatate showed a lot of composure on the ball, and a lot of times where he managed to progress the ball, but a lot of the times the ball went up to Ida, he gave it away or he didn't hold it up. Now, obviously, maybe that's not his strength either. Maybe his strength is more running onto the ball type thing as well. I don't know. We kind of pigeonhole him, say he's a big guy, so he should be a big target man and all that type of stuff. But yeah, I mean, it was at least it was really respectable. And when you look at us not having an actual, yeah, that was what was
possession lost.
Yeah, that's what I thought. And the issue as well is every time you see that, then the label's going to come out and it's going to be we paid £9 million for this guy. I think we should just forget about that now. Like, you know, just forget about it. I'm not saying that it's not a valid talking point. You've spent a lot of money on him and all that sort of stuff, but you know, he was there for a reason, and we're playing a game where our backs were more against the wall rather than being on the front foot the way we normally play. So, bit of a big sort of general learning curve for the team, and we came out of it with loads and loads and loads of credit. I mean, if you just look at that Champions League table at the moment and look at some of the teams we're actually ahead of, and okay, we've had a favourable draw. We've played the previous Champions League finalists and the Europa League winners away from home, and we're still ahead of some of those teams. So that's a real positive start to the campaign, and we've got games which are, you know, they're not easy games by any means. They're still hard games, but we've got games that we can, you know, get results in. So we need to prove it. But you know, there's loads of teams below us. And Bratislava obviously down the bottom. Well, we gubbed them, didn't we? So that contributed to it. But
only 8 lucky teams get to play Bratislava.
I know, but I mean, yeah, but then they played Man City and stuff, and then who did they play? They played Girona, who are quite an accomplished team. So it's going to be a tough one for them. But you know, let's not kid on. I mean, like I looked at like Benfica against Feyenoord, and Benfica are doing really well, and thought, yeah, I think Benfica will beat them at home. Feyenoord went away and beat them. So you got to remember that on any given night, that a lot of these teams can just beat each other. You know, it's the top level of competition and everything here, and there's lots of good games, good performances, good teams, loads of qualities. Brendan refers to it. I wish I had Dortmund Real Madrid game. That was what a game of football that was. But Dortmund really gave them huge issues, and then they were 2-0 up and they took off Gittins and they put on a defender, and Real Madrid just absolutely tore them to bits. So I think it's kind of one of those where maybe if they'd just kept doing what they were doing, maybe they'd have got a third and a fourth, and then instead, like, the Bernabeu just absolutely came alive, and obviously they scored 5 goals. But yeah, it's top level, and you know, we're there and we're being competitive now, and I think that's really we should be given a lot of credit for that.
Yeah, I'm with you. Like, well, yeah, I think we made it easy for Dortmund, and like Brendan said, like we've all kind of said in hindsight of the game, like it was fine margins. But the thing I kind of thought about the Real Madrid Dortmund element of it is because, again, fans, people, we all have this thing of, right, well, they beat us by this, and then somebody else beat them, or you know, that kind of thing. Normally, like if we draw Atalanta, what was it one year? It was like we were the only team to beat maybe AC Milan in the group stages, maybe, or something, and then they went on to win the Champions League, or maybe was it
the defending champions, weren't they? Was that when Scott McDonald scored and they had won it the year before or something? So
no, I think it was like the year somebody won it on their run to the final. The only game they didn't win was like us or something like that. And then it's kind of like, oh well, we were the only team to beat them, that kind of thing. So if you think about it, like Real Madrid score 5 against Dortmund, beat them 5-2, and then obviously what Dortmund put past us, like we've played Real Madrid recently enough, like they're not like 12-0 ahead of us, if you get me.
Yeah.
So like seeing that happen to Dortmund, I think like should give the players even a little bit of something. It's just like it doesn't matter to an extent. It doesn't matter the level. Like if you fall asleep, you fall asleep. These teams, that's what they do. Real Madrid do that to Dortmund. They could do that to Celtic just as easy. But if you give them, so again, like it's not in that kind of stupid way where it's like, well, oh, they'd be that much further ahead of you. It's not really the way it works. It's just, so I think there's a little kind of a very slender silver lining there that you can kind of take out of it, and just like, well, that happens to teams. It's not because we are so much further behind anyone, as I guess the punchline of that ramble.
Yeah, it's all on what you do in the night, and you've played against a team who have they went. I watched the game where they went and played against Liverpool at Anfield, and they played Liverpool right off the pitch at Anfield. I mean, like I just couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe that Liverpool were losing, and it wasn't like Liverpool had like 10 chances and missed 10 of them or whatever. Like Atalanta were really, really good, and then they went on to win the competition. So we've got to take a lot of confidence from actually being able to go and being organised and get the result there. Because one thing that's always been kind of levelled at is maybe we'll get 3 points when we're on it at home or whatever, but we'll go away and we'll get absolutely scudded away from home or whatever, or we're not good at the kind of thing that some other teams do in the Champions League, where they'll be able to grind out a result away from home and then bring that team back home and beat them at home and all that sort of stuff. So if you start getting the odd 1 point away from home here or there, take some of the pressure off, because realistically we're always under pressure to win all our home games because we don't really get any points elsewhere. So a point like that against a good team gives you loads of confidence, and also takes a wee bit of the pressure off as well, because realistically I think from what people are saying, we're probably only 2 wins away from actually going through to the next phase. And that's based on getting Dortmund away out of the way and getting Atalanta out of the way. That's looking quite achievable the way we're playing. So that's what we've got to go for, and everybody will be coming into that Leipzig game having won the last Champions League home game against Bratislava, battered them. We beat Feyenoord in the Champions League, so they'll be, after that performance, there'll be more confidence. Whereas if you get battered 7-1 by Dortmund, everybody would turn up going, oh, so Leipzig are as good as Dortmund. So like that type of stuff, as you say, with the comparisons. So there's lots to look forward to. There's no two ways about it.
And it feels like, like when we seen the fixture list, it was like get over that first 4 games, and it's from there is when everyone starts to think, right, these are games we should be going into with expectation levels. So to come through this first half of it, like I would say 4 points, even if we were to lose against Leipzig, 4 points after 4 games is bang on the money of what you would want, is like a non-negative result. You get your 3 points against your gimme, and then against 3 bigger teams, you've got something at least, so and then it's only up from there in terms of like how we should be looking at it versus the opponents that we're playing. But one thing that I think made a big difference in this match as well is like the subs and how and when they happened and everything as well. And it's like the overall quality of the squad. We're talking about Ida and 9 million, Trusty and 6 million, Engels 13 and all the rest of it. But it's like there's more of the squad now that have, I don't know if pedigree is quite the word, if you know what I mean, but they've been around the block, going to flying away to Italy and playing a team of this level isn't a shell shock experience for them. Like Engels is breaking into the Belgium team slowly but surely. Paulo Bernardo, highly decorated, of course. Portugal under 21s. Never mind the actual starting lineup that have all got their own thing on the go. Like Scales has just broke into the Ireland team. He scored in the window there after like not really, even though he's been doing great for us, he's not really got into that team properly. It feels like now he is, obviously. And obviously we know the exploits of Johnson, Kasper Schmeichel, etc. So like it feels like the team overall is just like it's just a wee bit more on the same level as like physically. We've bridged a bit of a gap where we can be a bit closer to them, like the opposition of this level, because again, like maybe this team's missing like the Neymars and the Mbappes and all that kind of level of even Adeyemi, who we faced. By the way, pretty good breaking news as well, because Xavi Simons is going to miss the rest of 2024. So that Leipzig are a man down, a big man down in that. And even though like Atalanta don't have that kind of guy here, like physically they are just like at the top percentiles of elite European footballs. And I say that for me, that was a big thing that I felt that Engels, everyone really in the team showed that very much like this was an even contest, that we weren't just going to get battered off the game. Might have been some sort of misfortune that tends to happen to us. That didn't happen, which was good. But it felt like it was an even contest. And like I said earlier on, like it's that same level. It doesn't really matter who. But whenever we've ever played in the Europa League, I've never had a game where we were played off the park or we didn't look. And we've had some big teams in the Europa League, if you know what I mean. So it's a weird thing, but felt like that was the first time, especially away from home, in recent times in the Champions League, maybe just period, that just all over the pitch, it just felt like we were on the same level as a top team, as it were. So yeah, it's all positives. It's all good. And I say I don't think anyone comes out of this game really bad. Yeah, I think some guys didn't hit any spectacular heights in terms of really trying to win as the game or whatever. But like you said before, the little change of shape, just making it harder to beat, and we still got some attacks away and all the rest of it. So it's a good development. Do you think coming out of this, there's a few, we've touched on Valley Taylor, we can come back to that if you want or whatever, but do you think coming out of this, that little change of midfield dynamic is maybe something we see domestically, or maybe see him try more often? Because Rodgers, in his own words, like they want to be playing the way that they want to play. They don't want to change for people. So is this maybe the evolution? Do you think that we maybe play this Engels a bit deeper to McGregor on a regular basis, or semi-regular at the very least, maybe away from home or something?
There might be some games that you've got to be a bit more pragmatic, I suppose. Like, if we were playing Aberdeen away next week, which Rangers are, then you know that they're doing pretty well this season, Aberdeen, and maybe you've got to not be as gung-ho. When Bernardo came on, I thought he looked after the ball really well too, so that was good to have that option for him to actually come on. But, if you think back to Dortmund, Engels was like, he was away pressing the ball in their final third and stuff like that, and then we were getting picked apart all over the place, really, So we did sort of set up with a different shape, and also Hatate never started that night, and Bernardo was pretty poor as well. And I actually think what Hatate gives you is when you get the ball, I know he gives the ball away a lot, but he takes the ball in difficult situations. So I thought that in this game we actually looked after the ball coming back out a lot more. I'm not saying it was like an even game, because obviously they had more shots and they hit the bar and all that sort of stuff, but it wasn't like the ball was coming out and we were just giving it back to him all the time. And that's important, right? Because what all the top teams can do is they can look after the ball and they can find a way to take the pressure off the team by getting the ball and then popping it about, whether it's the back three or whatever, all that sort of stuff. So I thought Hatate was taking off probably because he was starting to tire a wee bit. He seen it was kind of like was sort of blowing a bit, and it's like, okay, it's a good time to get Bernardo on a bit of sort of fresh pair of legs. But I thought he played really well, Hatate, without doing some of the stuff like he would do, like, obviously getting the goal against Aberdeen and things, but he really contributed, obviously. And then, yeah, when Bernardo came on, I think it was one particularly got the ball and you thought, there's like two guys there and he's going to lose the ball, and he just kind of dropped the shoulder and he was calm and he's like, I'm going to go that way, and then he passed it and just looked after the ball, and all of a sudden, rather than getting the turnover and they're back on our back four again, it gives the back four a breather for a minute or two, because you're starting to play the ball about rather than just wave after wave after wave after wave of attack. And let's face it, I mean, they did have some chances from crosses and things, but you were playing against a guy there, Lookman, who scored a hat-trick in the Europa League final last season, and I didn't really feel at any point that he was just like giving us a complete roasting or just running in behind us, or like the game plan we had worked really, really, really well. We're quite compact and kind of playing in a way that you would think, well, yeah, we did start the season in Scotland with 6 clean sheets in a row, rather than what happened when we were away the last time. So there's just loads and loads and loads of positives to take there, because you've got guys there who are normally kind of progressive players going forward, adapting to a system that might need to suit. And, if we do actually get into a playoff part of the Champions League, we'll be wanting to see if we can progress past the last 16, or is it the round of 16 then the quarterfinals? I can't remember how it shapes up. There's a playoff and then a last 16, but the top 8 go through, and then you've got a playoff round, and then those 8 join the other 8. So that's still like a sort of last 16 type round. But that's what we've got to be aiming for. Like, we've got to get to that stage. If you get to that stage and you start playing somebody home and away, you've got to be able to go away and grind out a result like that against somebody like maybe an Atalanta. So yeah, I've like, I'm not saying I enjoyed it, because you were just thinking, what moment are we going to fuck this up here? It's like, that's what you were thinking, right? It was like, what moment are we going to do it? Somebody's going to bugger it up. But aye, like, it was. Now you can look at it; it's really good, I think.
I'm with you. I've got to say on Bernardo, like again, I thought Bernardo did great when he came on. Like he's very good at just being effective whenever he's around the ball, whether it's just making it hard for them to play around. And like you say, with that, when that happened, I was not happy. I was spitting tea out. If like I just couldn't believe it. Like he absolutely killed. It was a counter attack he created himself, and then he just got a bit of a nosebleed with it because like he just doesn't really have that range of passing. I suspect. He just thought the best thing to do is this because I'm not going to be able to play that ball. And there was two on for him, So I was raging more than anything, and that's maybe why I wasn't too buzzing about him by the end of the game. But he didn't put a foot wrong. He hardly ever does. But it's just that's the thing with Dortmund as well. Is he was getting played very high up the pitch, off the when we were off the ball in the first half. And he's not a final third guy. Like he can smash the box and he can score a goal and he can pick a pass like once in a while, I suppose, because he's a good player. But he's not a final third guy, And that's where I think a big thing with Hatate is, because when Hatate is in that deeper position, that's the first thing he wants to do is that one thing Bernardo done and then bricked it. Hatate wants to do that every time, take the ball from here, cross the halfway line, play somebody. And you need that. You need to be able to get out, properly get out.
Yeah,
So anyway,
I see what you mean. Yeah, I mean, obviously Bernardo's come through like the kind of Benfica academy, and he kind of looks more like one of those guys where he's been brought up to like stay in possession of the ball type thing, and he is probably more come through as a defensive type midfielder rather than an attacking midfielder. And when he plays for Celtic and he gets his goals and he's doing his wee chips over the back line or he's hitting a shot from outside box, that's just because we're right on top of teams and they're camped out in their 18-yard box at Celtic Park or whatever. But so I do see what you mean for that point of view. But then arguably there might have been points in the past where somebody would have tried something fancy, gave it to them, the guy would have passed it to somebody over the other side of the pitch and they would have hit it and they would have scored. So there's a kind of, sometimes there's a game management element of things there where you've got to say, well, all right, there's 8 minutes to go here and Alistair Johnson's going down with cramp and, just keep the ball for 2 or 3 minutes and just kind of take this thing out of the game. And the one really good thing, and the commentators picked up on it as well, was that Atalanta run out of ideas. But, they brought on Lazar Samardzic and De Ketelaere, and people will not know the likes of those guys, but those are two guys who have done pretty well in Serie A, and we've known De Ketelaere from obviously going to Bruges, and then he went to, was it AC Milan? So AC Milan didn't really feature as much, and then he went to Atalanta and stuff. So they're good players, right? So, but we made them look average because we were so organised and because we were obviously winning tackles and being competitive and all that type of stuff. So let's actually give the players some credit for that rather than saying, well, okay, Atalanta weren't brilliant that night, but they weren't really allowed to play that well because of the game plan as well.
I agree. But I do think, I thought they would have played the same team they played at the weekend, and that would have been Darun in defence, Pasalic in midfield, and then you get the Ketelaere on from the start with that Retigui and Lookman. And when I seen that, when I seen their team, I thought, oh, they're actually like giving us a bit of respect here. They're not expecting to batter us 5-0. They're actually thinking we're going to need to give it inch for inch, because this is way more like, I don't know if I'd call them conservative being like this, if you know what I mean. But they normally play the midfielder in defence and the attacker in midfield, and then play another guy up front. That's what they tend to do if they think they're going to beat somebody quite hard. So so I don't think, and you seen with the Ketelaere as well, when you come on, 2-touch shot, he can just turn a guy, get some space, left foot, right foot, he's very quick, and they had more weapons, but I think we had the answers for the majority of them, and really I think that's why the defence really came out of it, because like Scales and Trusty, like they just didn't, nobody had the beating of them for pace, for strength, even just for being switched on. They never got like totally caught with their pants down or anything either, in terms of just errors and stuff. And I think that was the biggest thing. But with Bernardo, as I say, the thing that I've always got with him is I just don't get. He gets such mega praise sometimes. I'm just like, I don't get the mega praise. Like Scales has been like this. I did say this was his best match, but he's been like this the whole time. You know what I mean? And he's always been kind of shat on. And I always just think it's weird how like this guy isn't that he's fine, but everyone's saying he's great. And then we've had this guy who's been pretty good. Everyone said he's been shite, you know. So it's maybe just a wee bit of that imbalance that comes along there. But I think Hatate is kind of underlined his importance to the team. And with Luke McKowen maybe chapping at the bit to come into the squad as well, like it really feels like that's his role. That's the role he can play in the squad, is going like he's very tenacious, you know, but he wants to, he's got a lot more energy. He's happy to cross yards on the pitch. You know, he's happy to cross the halfway line with the ball. He can press the front line as well quite happily. We've seen that him do that, I think, every time he's come off the bench for us so far. And as we've seen for like the last couple of games he played at Dundee, he was more in the McGregor role. And I think maybe Celtic fans maybe seen that just before he signed for us and thought, oh, he's a McGregor guy. But really, for the majority of the time at Dundee, he's getting goals, he's getting assists. Like he was an attacking box-to-box guy. So he gives you a wee bit more energy in that regard. Whereas Bernardo does give you that energy, but it definitely gets to like a stage on the pitch where he's like, right, somebody else have it. That's fine, if you know what I mean. But you just kind of play that guy in attacking mid, you know.
Yeah, I mean, look, we've got to be realistic here as well. I mean, we've got quite a tough away game on Sunday, and Motherwell have always given us a game, I think, over the last couple of seasons. I don't think there's ever been like games where we're beating them by 4 and 5 and everything. They always seem to sort of give us a good game. And then we've got Dundee midweek, which obviously you'd be hoping at home we're able to put it away. But then there's got to then be not one eye, but you've got the semi-final against Aberdeen. And from that point of view, in either the game at Motherwell on Sunday and or the game next Wednesday, you're going to have to look to some of the other guys in the squad, because you can't just ask them to go every 3 days and put in that sort of high energy type sort of pressing. Or it wasn't really so much the pressing in that Atalanta, it was just that we were just running a lot because we didn't have the ball, you know. So we didn't have much of the ball as we would usually have. So it was a tougher shift, and everybody put in a proper shift. So yeah, I mean, Luke McKowen, I think, was one of the most clever signings that we made in the window, because it's kind of underrated, that, like, being able to see, right, this guy is like in his mid-20s, he's Scottish, he's doing really well in the league, he's performing well, he's not got a fancy name, he's not coming from the South Korean K-League at 19 or whatever, but he's actually proven he can play in the league. And then all of a sudden, if we go with a similar team or whatever at weekend and people are running out of gas, you just say, you want to play against that? You know, Dundee, you can play against Dundee. You can have a game on Wednesday night, and he'll just go in and he'll slot in there, and he'll be comfortable with that. Because I think when he came on at the Ross County game, I think he looked pretty good. He just sort of slotted into the team, and I think he made his debut against Rangers as well. So, like, he's, you know, I think he's got a lot to give, and it's not just being there for injury cover or whatever. It's actually, you know, we're going to need maybe 30-35 minutes from you at the end of the game whilst it's still in the balance or whatever. And there's lots of good options in there, and I think the middle of the park's actually, you know, really strong at the moment for us. So
it is. It definitely is. I'm with you all the way on that one. I think Engels as well is maybe just getting a wee bit of a inquisition on him, just because he did start so well. He's also the record signing. We've seen him get the Belgium caps, you know, in the last like window or two as well. And you know, in this game, like, it was funny because it felt like in Dortmund it was trying to like really force him onto the stage, and in this game it was more a case of like the team like just being the shape a bit more and everything else. So I think, like, yeah, the midfield, the work ethic that goes into them all, like individually, I just wanted to bring him in there. So we've mentioned basically the rest of the midfield outside of McGregor, and that kind of sway there, because Atalanta in the Champions League, Motherwell coming up, any games in the future, like the midfield has always been the thing where, you know, in seasons gone past, generally, you know, the best midfield, it was quite nailed on, and there was like maybe someone that you were happy come off the bench before Bernardo came on loan, and then Bernardo maybe did ask some questions of Hatate for a while originally. And but now, like, that's not really the case. You know, McGregor is like captain, just always going to be there. You suspect Engels gets a lot of minutes because of the money, you know, but then Bernardo looks good in his position as well, especially if we do try and keep a bit more of a neater midfield with someone with McGregor. Bernardo and Engels are both really suited to that. Could be very well competing for the same job eventually, essentially. And then you've got Hatate and McKowen. that resemble each other very, very well and have got that kind of mirror image, that kind of energy. So it's just Odenholm and James McCarthy. We need to find some minutes for them now. And
Is James McCarthy still alive? Yeah, I thought you were trying to release him or something. Or I think Odenholm gives you something as well. But I think he's a guy where really maybe in January or whatever, get him out on loan, let him get some minutes somewhere. And you've got Quadri, as we call him, playing at Hibs there as well. But I mean, it's quite. I think it's overall in the midfield and coming back to Engels because he's a star signing and everything. And everybody's got huge expectations of him, but he's not the finished article yet. It's wrong to call him a project because he's in the Belgian squad and it's the full Belgian squad, and he was playing in the Bundesliga, and he's come in and he's started pretty well. So I don't think you can just say he's a project, but also he's not actually at the point of like being sort of what Matt O'Reilly was. He's maybe still needing some experience and needing a bit of development, but also I think that people should actually be pretty excited about that as well, because if you get somebody like that who's still capable of improving and is already in the Belgian squad, then he's got a pretty high ceiling. And okay, ultimately the likes of those guys might eventually move on in the same way as Matt O'Reilly's moved on. But I don't think that I don't think the midfield is quite at the same level as it was where Matt was there, but we've sold a guy for 30 million, right? So, I think we've done a pretty good job overall in spending that money and giving ourselves different options. And then obviously, we'll see how it goes from there. But I thought Engels actually played okay. He didn't do a huge amount sort of going forward or whatever. His delivery was okay into the box and things, but put some good balls in and they just defended it quite well because you're playing against a real solid sort of top team, and he'll come into better form. But he's a really young guy, and you'll have to expect that at that age you'll have to deal with a wee bit of inconsistency. That's until he beds into the club, until he develops a wee bit, until he gets the Champions League experience. You're going to get a couple of good games followed by one or two bad games or whatever, and you just got to manage that. So
I think one of the biggest parts of it as well is it is like a heavy section of the season in terms of travel and just ferocity of matches coming thick and fast, especially if you're going away to a high level national team as well. So I think maybe that's just the move to Celtic, big club, Champions League, national team, from being out, and I know it was Belgium youth teams and stuff, right? But being Augsburg, bottom half of the Bundesliga, it's a real rags to riches situation, really, isn't it? Football in terms, so it's I'm sure it's a bit of a head spinner for him in a lot of ways, and it's just I think we only see him improving essentially.
Yeah, the other thing Alex Valley said was that he was surprised at how big Celtic was. So you've got even a young guy like that coming in and thinking, I'm going to Celtic, and it's just Scotland, and it's sunny here and it rains over there and blah, blah. And then he comes in and he goes, well, hang on a minute, this is a really big football club I'm playing for. And he's really adapted quite well because he's come through an academy where all the fundamentals are all basics to them, but they're just much better at all the basics than a lot of even Scottish players or whatever are, because it's just obviously they've got that level of ability. So if we could, I'd love to buy Valley. I mean, I don't know whether or not maybe we need a slightly different type of fullback, if that makes sense, because you were sort of alluding to the fact that him and Taylor are pretty similar. But have we missed Taylor that much? I don't know. I mean, Valley, actually, you could see a lot of the times that he was moving infield and he was given the option to the back line. So he's kind of starting to adapt to how we want to play in terms of what he's going to be doing. And Greg Taylor's done really well, by the way. So we would have been really struggling without him last season, and you've got to give a guy a lot of credit. But ultimately, we were always talking about, could we bring in a left back where somebody challenges in front of the position, and look at what happened to Scales as well. Trusty came in, £6 million. Everybody thought, this is going to be the downfall of Scales, and it's pushed him on, and his form's been really, really good, and he's risen it a wee bit, and that's, if anything, it might have helped him a wee bit to bring that element of competition to spur him on, to make sure gives the performance levels every week. So we're in a good position. Hopefully everybody stays healthy. The main downside just now, because you see the kind of conceding the goals and everything against Aberdeen is just the issues we're having with CCV. You know, it's just like he's training, but then why is he training? And then he's not travelling to the games and everything. And can we get him healthy? Because once we get him back, then you feel as if you're proper at full strength, you know.
I think that I like Valley a lot. What I kind of said on them being similar is like they're playing the same job. Like we've seen Valley pop up at right mid at one point in the Atalanta match. You know, he's been. I don't know if that's just something he wants to do or whatever, but from what we've seen, at least on the statistics and whatever, from when he was at Levante, it was much more of like 3-5-2 left back. You know, where he's wide and he's going up and down like some of the guys we've seen for Atalanta. So I don't really. So that when I see him being put into that position, I think, well, we are clearly not Greg Taylor dependent on that tactic, as it were. We are maintaining that, and we're going to get people that will carry it on. So yeah, I did find that a bit revealing, and maybe that makes your search kind of harder in terms of guys that can do that role. Maybe guys that played midfield when they were younger, or you find a club that play that way somehow, you know. And I suppose like maybe Atalanta's back three didn't half resemble an inverted fullback at times, the way that they move up the pitch and stuff. So yeah, it was more kind of on that angle. But I think Valley, like what you see from him is again similar to what I'm saying about Engels in a way, is like you see what he's already bringing to the table, you know, and if we can improve him. Because I said in my review, my analysis video that went out earlier today, that for me, bona fide after this match, Scales and Alistair Johnson are Champions League level players for me now. Like I won't be moved on that until they absolutely fall off a cliff form wise, or they age 5 years or something. But I think they really stood up. They have stood up on a number of occasions, and doing it again in this venue, getting the result, and you know, they are the embodiment of the squad progression. They're the ones that have really taken it all the way so far. They're the ones that are really the leading examples of that. So it's all only onwards and upwards for the defenders. Left back challenge, and as I say, you can see the guys that we've brought in from Ireland and Canada. Fair enough, MLS is maybe a wee bit better than the Irish League, but you know, we've not taken, and you know, Valley's at the Barca Academy, whatever. So we're taking guys in, and from playing in Scotland, and you know, we did play a wee bit of Europe as well. Normally, when we play the better teams, Real Madrid, Atletico Madrid, it's not been that fun, you know. So they've still managed to develop to a pretty good level, I think, you know.
Yeah, I think when Scales come back, there was a whole thing of he's an Aberdeen standard player, but well, you see how Aberdeen are doing now, and they're doing pretty well, so maybe give them a bit more respect. And also, you know, if we're bringing guys in, you've got to find a way to develop them as well. And the issue is that often we'll have loads of players in the squad who just don't get any game time. Look at Iwata, right? I know it's only League One in Birmingham, but they think he's a world beater. And actually, I think a lot of us liked Iwata and thought he'd something to offer. But the problem was he just never played. He's never got any games. So if you're going to have a Liam Scales coming over or whatever, and he's not deemed good enough, or he's not had a chance to play in the team, it's better that he goes and gets games for Aberdeen. It's better that Kwon's away playing for Hibs. It's better that, you know, Ryan Christie in the past went to play for Aberdeen and he came back and actually got himself back in the team. That's better. And we can't do that and then bring them back and say, oh, he's not good enough because he's an Aberdeen player. Like, you know, that's part of the learning curve. That's part of the development. And Scales is what? Is he 25? I can't remember the age is, but like most centre backs are at their best when they're probably in their late 20s. Yeah, so he's kind of like coming into his prime as Scaldini, so like as you call him. But he was man. Wasn't it? I don't think he was actually. I think Matt Riley was man of the match against Atletico Madrid in the Champions League. But I'm sure that Scales got a man of the match award in the Champions League at some point. It might have been the Feyenoord game, but it's hard to disagree that he is actually at that level. It's just that he will get exposed against teams that play in the right way to expose him, because they've got pace, because he's not good at that. He's not. When you look at the Atalanta players, they would often leave maybe one guy on Ida at the back, you know, like the big guy, Hein, or, you know, maybe Nicholas Kuhn would be bursting through, or Maeda would be bursting through, and you go, this is our chance, and you go, oh, hang on, that guy's actually as quick as Maeda. So, like, they've got guys who are capable of playing defence, but they're also really quite athletic as well. So it's an eye-opener from that point of view, but we're kind of at the stage now with the squad, etc., where maybe we're only one or two pieces away from having a right go, and we can maybe address that in the next windows or whatever. But guys like Nicholas Kuhn, who we brought him in last January and thought, well, this guy's no use, and and everybody's written him off. Anyway, we ain't got a good pre-season and developed, and he was brilliant in pre-season, but then he's carried it on into the main season. So there's loads of reasons for optimism, and we've not even talked about the mess across the city. So let's focus on Celtic. But aye, it's good.
It's the gift that keeps on giving, Like there is stages of them across the river that you're just like, I can't believe this is real. Like it's continuing to get bad. It always never improves, really, does it? It's as I say, it's one of those ones where it just beggars belief sometimes how it can still get worse, but it does.
It's a rebuild, and if you think about it, like obviously when Celtic chucked the big chance away to do the 10 and everything, then we needed a bit of a rebuild, and then Ange came in and we managed to recruit well, but we went through a few phases of that. Now we're at the phase where maybe we do sell our best player every so often, but brings in the money to sort of address some other areas. But when you see like Trusty getting rave reviews in that game against Atalanta, hopefully people can see that actually he's a decent piece of recruitment, because I know that some of the previous games, after the Dortmund game, people were starting to write him off. He's useless and blah, and I get all that, but also he's kind of playing in there, and he's a really quite a dominant left-footed type guy who used to play maybe a bit of left back or in a back three or whatever in the MLS, and all of a sudden he's playing the right-hand side and he's playing the harder role. So we've got a lot in there, I think, and I think that everybody gets a bit ticked off at Brendan Rodgers sometimes, and he's a bit bullish about the way he talks about the comments after the Dortmund game and things. But he's shown that he was able to go away and play in that game and manage the tactics, and he's shown in other games that we've been at Champions League games where he's been making adjustments, and you've picked it out probably before me because of your coaching stuff, and I'm just on the beer now, but you're like, yeah, he's doing that, and it's like it's a high level game. So I think we're nearly there. We just need to obviously keep building on that. But back to the bread and butter obviously is we've got to stay solid, stop doing the daft stuff at the back, and start scoring a few goals every week. And if you start scoring 2 or 3 goals, you can deal with this period by managing the minutes and things. So tough game on Sunday, but that's the nature of being at the top.
Well, that's exactly where I wanted us to get to, because this is a very difficult question. We have Dundee in the midweek coming up, like you said. But coming into this game away to Motherwell, where we just drew with Aberdeen, there's no game that's not important, while we're not definitively running away with the league as per expected. And coming into this one, Carter Vickers has been back in training, has been maybe on the cards to play the last 2 games and hasn't, obviously. Brendan's told us that Taylor rejoins the group tomorrow, Friday. Obviously, I'm sure everyone will be off today or doing some just cool down stuff after playing the game last night. So he's kind of back in with the squad for Motherwell, essentially. Taylor, this is. I think the defence is the hardest thing to change coming into the Motherwell game. I don't know how you drop any of them after that game. And if Taylor is coming back, fit and available, if Vickers, or when is Vickers getting brought back into, is Vickers now on the bench? Like, is that the way it goes? Or do you think maybe Dundee at home is maybe like we get Taylor and Vickers and maybe some other changes perhaps or something? I don't know. Yeah. But Motherwell at the weekend, I don't know how you can change the defence is essentially what I want to give you.
Well, I think the problem with Alistair Johnson is he was really cramping up at the end. If it's just cramping, he's got a few days until the weekend. Hopefully it'll be okay. And you'll just say, well, look, we'll start you and maybe play 70. Trusty played well. Wouldn't have many real concerns about him. I think with Carter Vickers, my concern is that he's not actually put him on the bench at any point. So if you imagine, like, he's now been out for like 3 weeks or something, maybe more. So it's a bit of a risk just to chuck him back in. So maybe it's a good idea just to start with Trusty and see how the game goes, or to have him on the bench and then, give him more minutes against Dundee or whatever, and incorporate him in a way where you're not being as risky. Scales and Valley's pretty nailed. So I agree with your analysis there. I mean, I don't think there's really any need now to do anything really sort of drastic there, and it might be a case where Carter Vickers comes in and he's on the bench, and if the game state's okay, you say, okay, right, we'll give you 20 minutes here and we'll let you start building up a bit of fitness, and then you've got that competition between trusty Carter Vickers and you've got Scales. But let's be realistic, you do need to think that left side, right side balancer. Like, I think it will be a bit harsh on Trusty, but I'd imagine if Carter Vickers was firing, that it'll be Scales and Vickers. That's my view on it. But yeah, let's see. Let's see how it goes. But I don't think for this weekend, based on what you're saying there, I think that's what I would start with as well.
Yeah. Carter Vickers' last appearance was the Bratislava match, which was mid-September, essentially, or depends on where you put, just over a month ago. So, yeah. And I think this is the sort of mad return to action plan I was maybe trying to get to here, but David, I think, has maybe called it. But I don't know, like, I think maybe the home fixture is a great time to bring him back, and maybe it's a good time to bring him back for this away game because he didn't travel to Germany, and he could maybe, if Trusty or Scales, one of them's taking a big nasty bruise or smashed a toenail or something, I don't know, then they can maybe take the day off for it. But again, it's away. It's a bit of a tough game. You maybe just want to keep the momentum going of the guys that have been in the trenches, that have been cutting away. For me, I think it's Johnson and Ralston, of course, is just a Johnson thing. Like, if Johnson can't make the game, Ralston plays. But if Johnson can make it, he's in. And that's a good kind of job share that's on the go there. I think we're all quite content with that. Yeah. I think Valley is the hardest one because if Taylor is like back fit, it was a calf injury, I believe he was out with. So I don't know if it was anything too severe or whatever. I could see him just coming straight back in. Like, I really could. But maybe, I think he will start him. I think Valley does start Motherwell. But like, if Taylor is totally fine, brand new, ready to go, I could see Rodgers doing it.
I think I agree with what you're saying. Has Valley just blown everybody away and thought, right, Greg Taylor's done for? Probably not. But I would, if Taylor's there, I would start Valley and then maybe bring Taylor on later on, and then you've got a decision to make for the Dundee game. But that might be a case where even if you start Taylor midweek again, it's maybe the 60 minutes thing, so that you've got people fighting fit for the Aberdeen game. Because the thing with Valley is he's a young guy and he won't have experience of cup semi-finals and all that type of thing. So maybe then Taylor comes back in for the Aberdeen game. For the cup semi, but those are nice options to have, right? That's much better than going. So we were sitting here in January going, "How we've not signed the left back, and we've let Bernabei go." And I know he was a bit of a maniac, but he's doing pretty well in Brazil. Actually,
we've not totally let him go. We've still got our hooks in him. We've still got him.
Yeah, but we let him go. So we let him go in terms of we said, right, you're going out in the season-long loan until December.
Give him the Scales treatment, the Scales and Christie treatment. That's what we've done with Bernabei.
Offski. But I mean,
a top club, who'd have thought it?
He's doing really well over there. I mean, what I will say is that if we do decide to let him go, you'll get a few million back for him, which is a save. But actually, the way he's playing, I would be completely against like giving him another chance, if that makes sense, because I mean, obviously he's playing for a different type of team in a different style of league, but it's quite a tough league, the Brazilian league. Like, there's a lot of good players and everything about there. So those are some good options. Or even if you decide that the horse is bolted and you get a few million back, then you've not really lost out on anything. And then I think the hardest bit to call is probably going to be, I wouldn't really like to see Kuhn drop out because he's been so integral. He did come off with minutes to spare, so he's not played the full 90, but he did put in a good shift. So I think he should be okay. It'll be one of those where you say, we'll give you, we'll take 60 or 70 minutes again, against Motherwell. McGregor obviously is always there and sort of ever present. And then it might be a game where maybe you want to set out Engels, or it might be a game where you want to set out Hatate. But I think it's probably like McGregor and Hatate and one more or something there. I don't know. You've got to start using the squad. So I think that's you've got to start using the squad after these tough games, keep the fresh legs. So maybe it's kind of two that played midweek and then change one and then manage minutes from there. And I wouldn't be against maybe giving Maeda a rest and like bringing him on from the bench, because he's still been running about a lot, but he looks a wee bit ragged. And obviously he was away with Japan and everything as well. So it might be a game where he terrorises them in the last 30 minutes rather than the first 60 or 70 minutes. I don't know, whatever suits, maybe give Forrest a start, because Forrest gets you goals as well, you know, so I don't think that's a bad option or whatever I have. So yeah, I mean, and who do you think will start? So this is one I was struggling with, but who do you think will start out of Furuhashi and Ida?
So I think Ida starts, right? Because I thought this is an Ida game anyway. I was surprised to see him start Atalanta. And same way that I put Rio straight onto this, like when Ida comes off, like that's a game management thing rather than an Ida management thing. You know, we need a change where we're bringing on Bernardo, we're losing some pace in midfield with Hatate. So we need to get that pace somewhere else, and we're gaining that up front, Ida for Kyogo at the same time. So I think it's Ida personally. Away from home, I think this is exactly the game that you buy Adam Ida for. I know people were saying it's Atalanta away, evidently not because he didn't score, but like I know he put in a fair shift and he did all right. But he didn't really do anything that great. Let's be honest. Like fucking Sketovic up there, you wouldn't have known.
So in the predictions, I went Ida 55%, but obviously, you know, with the predictions, that when all said and done, like it's based on did you pick Ida or did you pick Furuhashi? So I went with Ida. I think this could be a good opportunity. Start Ida, bring on Furuhashi, and then start Furuhashi against Dundee, and then assess who you want to play against Aberdeen. I think naturally Furuhashi will start against Aberdeen after being so good against Aberdeen at home. And Ida scored 2 goals here last season as well. Although interestingly, he didn't start that game either. I don't think he came on as a sub, but I think that actually that Ida's slightly more likely to start, but it just depends how Brendan sees it. And I don't think there's a real problem with either there, to be honest. I'd just like to see just 1 or 2 faces coming in to freshen it up, and then managing the minutes, and then the no disrespect to Dundee, but you know, Luke McCown was one of their best players, so I think maybe they're marginally weaker because when we played them before, guys like Owen Beck and obviously have lost McCown and things as well, so that'll be hard for them. So then maybe you can rotate 1 or 2 more midweek, and then hopefully when you go to the Aberdeen game, then you're fully firing again. So it's good options to have, and I think that even if they are maybe a wee bit fatigued, they're a wee bit tired, the spirit will be there after the Atalanta game, because that'll be a real sort of, they showed a lot of, I was going to use a Brendan buzzword, resilience and character and pace and power and all that, but there was a lot of resilience there, and that's something that's pretty important when you're going to play out over a full campaign.
I'm with you on that. I do think like Michelle kind of brings it up here as well. I do think Dyson like does just need a couple of days off or something. Like it just feels like he is just, you know, like on autopilot essentially. You know, he's not at himself. He needs to get a good night's sleep. He needs to get a wee day off, a wee bit of, you know, decompression time or whatever he needs to do to get himself back square. And if that means he misses a game at Motherwell, or you start him on the bench and give him the last 20 or something, then I think that's a smart move. One thing I've kind of noticed, I would just put Forrest straight on if we think that Maeda does get a bit of a breather, as it were. There's a lot of interesting Palma comments in the chat right now. I said on my analysis, the way the game had went, see when Palma was trying to do stuff, I was, you know, if we were going to get something out of that match, you fucking know Palma would have had something to do with it. You know, it would have just been absolutely on the money, you know. And
I think he's trying, but I think the thing is, like, I think Brendan's he makes some of these funny comments, but I think he's actually trying, and also he was going through one of those phases where I was like, he's going to become a TikTok Todd here, like, you know, it's like, let's not get into that type of side. So, like, see if he just kind of lets that paraphernalia go and he works hard, there's definitely still a player there, and maybe he does. Maybe he starts and then Forrest comes on. It was quite telling that he trusted Palma to go on away from home. And actually, I thought that when he came on, there was a couple of points, so just wee daffy things where he pressed the guy and he won a throw-in or whatever. But that type of stuff, when you've got 4 minutes to go, is quite important, right? Because if you don't, then they're down there and they're attacking the box. So I wouldn't have any real issues with starting Palma, but probably more likely it'll be Forrest. But you know, it's good we've got those options. We do have different options in terms of how we see the game, or maybe Palma's there if you do need a goal later, because we know in the past that he's capable of getting goals from outside the box and all that type of stuff as well. So
And I think we might have found Brendan Rodgers' burner account. It's not been that cleverly named. It's just Colin Rodgers. But Colin reckons 3 decent domestic tests before Leipzig, strongest side available. I kind of agree with that. I think we all agree with that. But part of the flavour of that is after the performance we've seen from some of these guys, like, what is the best 11 now? That's kind of half of it. Because I agree with you. I don't think Brendan takes anyone lightly. I think he'll do the best thing for the team overall. But we do have so many players that are kind of jostling for position that maybe McKeown starts at home to Dundee. Maybe they then brings Vickers back into the fold or something else. One thing I wanted to say on Palma is I thought actually Palma and Kyogo, when they came on as a pair almost in terms of the attack, how it changed. Forrest was on the right, obviously, on the night against Atalanta. And what might happen in this game is the good thing about Palma, I kind of described him recently as like a really bad David Beckham, where he's a guy that plays this kind of wide position and can shoot and cross and take free kicks and all that stuff. But Beckham was actually like pretty good, like could play centre mid, like pretty well. Palma's maybe just missing that. But it felt like that's kind of the guy you want on the wide area to play Kyogo because Dyson never gets Kyogo anything. And there's kind of maybe two parts of that are maybe not completely on the same wavelength. But Dyson's service is piss poor, if we're being honest, right? Whereas Palma's is way more like he'll find you from 30 yards on a long diag, or if it's a cut back from even in the final 18, it's going to hit the zone with power and that sort of thing. So it feels like if Ida starts this one, I could see, and maybe even Maida sits the whole fucking game out. I don't know, but I could see Palma like coming in with Kyogo in the match at some point if we did get Ida from the start potentially. And I know you might think like the crosser type player, artillery, David Beckham or whatever, play him with a bigger target man. But the problem with Palma is if Motherwell are deep and they've got two banks of players there, Forrest kind of been able to do something probably helps him a bit more than somebody that needs an overlapping run to help him out or, something like this.
Yeah.
Forrest can be on the break or can be independent on the ball a bit better, is what I would say. But the only spot on this I really can't figure is the final midfield spot because part of it that I'm wrestling with is, does it look a bit more like this than normal, like it did on Wednesday night? Or does it just go back to, the wee triangle of 3 out here, the wee triangle of 3 out here, McGregor, centre-backs, striker? Is that the way we go again? I'm not too sure. It's a hard one to judge after last night, which is kind of comes back into Colin's comment. I don't know where the manager now sees the team in some ways. It's quite a weird one for me to try and size up.
I think Engels is kind of he's his signing, and he talked him up a lot, which you'd expect to have to spend a lot of money. But he seemed pretty pleased to have got him. I think he'll get a lot of minutes. So I think although Hatate played well, actually you've seen so far that Bernardo's come in for Hatate and then Hatate's come in for Bernardo. So it might be one of those where actually Rio sits on the bench. I know you find that surprising because Rio's played well, but if you look at the minutes, Rio and Bernardo are the ones that have shared a lot of the minutes more in the midfield, and then McCown's come on for the cameos. So it's a hard one to call, but I think like they're all good options in there, and if we can get some fresh legs in there, that's good. And on Palma, I think he'll have a renaissance at some point.
Good.
I think he could. Because I think that even if it's just a situation where maybe you're playing the Champions League and then you're playing at home on Saturday or whatever, that Palma's a good option to bring in there for Maeda, because there's a lot of home games where teams are camped in. This might not be one of them away, obviously, but a lot of home games where teams camp in and it doesn't really suit Maeda anyway, if you know what I mean. So having those different options to give him a wee bit of a break, because he's a Duracell bunny and he's full of intensity. But as you said, it might not be that anything's up with him just now. He's just not on form. So when somebody's not on form, sometimes it's a good idea to bring them back out and give them a wee refresh and give them a reset, and bring them on when you're 2 or 3-0 up, when you're not under pressure. Then they get the goal because they're not under pressure, and then all of a sudden they're away again. So good options to have, and CCV is the only one we really know about at the moment that we're sort of struggling with. We haven't mentioned him, but he done everything right, really. Kasper Schmeichel, how many times in those games have we done everything right and somebody's chucked it in or whatever, So let's give him a bit of praise for that, because I don't think he's done anything that's been describing him as Superman or whatever, but like he done all of the real basic things really well. And you see there he had an absolutely cracking score in Sorare, but he had loads of saves and he had loads of goalkeeper smothers, and he looks after the ball quite well. He doesn't just, it wasn't amazing distribution, but he doesn't just punt it right back to the other team and they're on top of you. So 30 accurate passes, pretty good. 10 accurate long balls. That's good for a goalkeeper, isn't it? Like that's really good for a goalkeeper. So
yeah,
so pretty impressive, and a lot of leadership there as well. So the picture at the end where the guy's lying down and he's still going there with his arms out as if he still can't get past me, and it was good to have somebody with his experience behind the back four as well. So
yeah. So what do you think about this last midfield spot? Do you think he'll stick with Engels and then rein the subs in?
I don't think he's in the mood to drop Engels at the moment, and also Hatate and Engels both come off and didn't play the full game, so he could just go for the same again. But I think that over this game and the game Wednesday, you'll see some rotation in there. So if it goes with the same again, thing against Dundee, you'll maybe see like a McCowan starting in there, or you'll maybe see a Bernardo starting against Dundee. But you could easily just see him going, well, McGregor always plays, Engels and Rio come off. We'll start them, we'll manage their minutes again. And, maybe you'll see a wee bit of change where you'll have Forrest coming in from Maeda. But, we don't need to make that many changes. It's just that, obviously, you can see that was a huge effort, and we'll need to assess, how's Johnson feeling? He was like, at one point he could hardly move, so he'll probably recover quite quickly. But you've got to see how he bounces back for that and how he's feeling. If he's feeling good, he'll play. So,
just want to have a wee peek at away what we've seen so far. Obviously, that was right at the beginning of the season, but O'Reilly, McGregor, Hatate, Bernardo, McGregor, Hatate. Away at St Johnstone was the Bernardo game. And then away at Dortmund, obviously, it was Bernardo twice. Away at Ross County, Engels, McGregor, Hatate. At home to the Dons, that midfield. Away to Atalanta, that midfield.
Yeah, so it's been pretty stable, isn't it? So, and he just started the away game there as well. So that comes into your thinking. He started the game against Ross County, and he started the game against Atalanta as well. So I can see your thinking there on that as well. And Bernardo started the St Johnstone game, so that's what I was meaning by Hatate and Bernardo had shared more minutes than Engels shared with anybody. So Engels maybe starts.
Yeah, should be a good one. I hope it's a good. I hope it's one of these games where after Dortmund, it did feel like we were a wee bit on the ropes, and the Ross County game was kind of weird in a way. Like, I'm not going to go back into that match. It's maybe best left in the past because who really cares? Like, we ended up winning the game, of course, 2-1 in the end for anyone that doesn't remember. And I think this time it could be totally different, where we show up and it's like we're a Champions League team. Recognize, like we actually went away to Italy, got a point. We're all feeling good. It's basically the same team, maybe one bit of rotation, and what we would have is Forrest for Maeda. I think otherwise it'd be the same team, depending on Johnson, of course. Bring it on. Go and get a couple of goals early against Motherwell. Really test Lennon Miller. Really see what he's made of against a Champions League midfield. To be maybe the future McCowan, as it were. But I think this is a game
you've read my mind there. Honestly, I was just like, because of Sorare and stuff, I was thinking I'm looking forward to watching Lennon Miller. I know it's a weird thing to say as a Celtic fan, but I think he's like such a generational talent or whatever, but he's the big talent coming out of Scotland at the moment, and he's doing really well. So it'll be interesting to see how he does against us as well. But let's not take them too lightly, right? I mean, they've got a good manager there under, is it Kettlewell, isn't it? Not Kettlewell, but I think he's done pretty well, and the goalkeeper looks pretty decent and things, and so we've got some good players, and we'll need to make sure we show up. So
I'm going to take this as a 4-0. That's what I think we're getting. That's what you get. The clean sheet machine is in town. We've got goals on the beginning. We'll get goals off the bench. Start quickly, get one or two. It's a good Sunday, I think.
I hope you're right with the 4-0. I'll be a bit more pragmatic. I'll go 3-0. I think you're right. I think like having that solidity, will give us a lot of confidence that we can go and replicate that again. And we had 6 clean sheets in a row in the league as well, so I don't think it's that outlandish to think that we'll go away and keep a clean sheet. So yeah, good shout.
3-0 from you, 4-0 from me. It's been an absolute pleasure, everyone. Thanks for joining us on the Sorare CSC tonight on the Celtic side here. It's been a good one, having a wee chitter about Atalanta and the aftermath of it all, as well as, you know, having a wee preview and a wee set up for the Motherwell game this weekend as me and McBride look to knock some teams out. And actually, do you know what I might do just for a wee minute or two? So I tried to do this once or twice and I'm just badly organised sometimes, but I was going to try and make my team. I know you're a bit more private, McBride, but I was going to maybe try and make my team for the weekend. So let me see. I don't know if I've got... By the way, I'm sitting 8th in All-Star right now.
You were saying that? I think you had a really good overnight, was it? So
Gold.
100 hat trick. Scored a hat trick, didn't he?
Stuart Armstrong with 100 as well, by the way.
Interesting. I've still got an Armstrong card as well.
Double 100 golden Armstrong. It's a new stack. Yeah, I'll build one team, right? I've not built any teams, right? So I think I'll build my best team, right? See what you think. Right. So, right, this is kind of half the battle as well, mate, Bryce. I've got enough in season now where do I play my best? I'm only in Division 2, sadly, so I've not played a lot of in season. But do I play my best team in this and try and get a couple $100 as well as a box? Or do I go for, and I hate it when it does that, throws you all the way back to the top. But do I go for D1 Classic where there's money at the top still, but there's cards and boxes for getting close, but no cigar.
Go for the cash.
You think so?
Yeah, I mean, sorry guys, I'm so rare now and just want to talk about Celtic, but yeah, go for the cash because you're playing against a lot less players and you've got a lot of like Chinese games with contender cards and everything where people can put in 2 or 3 of them. So I think if you've got a Celtic stack, and also you don't need to worry about playing against my Celtic stack as well. So because mine's in D1, so
true.
So yeah, I'd put it in D2, and then if you get promoted, then you've got a D1 as well, so you've got a double whammy. And yeah, put the Calmac 15% in as well. Calmac's been in good form in the league. You know, he's
Calmac's good away from home. Away from home is where we get decisives, I feel. You know, just the wee pitch, you can get a wee bit higher, a bit easier. Doesn't mind a wee shot these days.
Yeah.
Turn into a wee bit of a Tony Cruz that way. Like McGregor will have one long shot every game, you know, just like the great Cruz would, you know. So I can dig that away from home.
Yeah, you go in season now, you need to go Kuhn. Well, that's not really the end of the world. And then who else you got in terms of in season? Bernardo, Trusty. You go either, yeah.
Because starts are off the bench. It's the same proposition, really, isn't it?
Yeah. And that's not a bad team at all. That's not bad at all. I'll have Scaldini in, but he's been seeing a lot of the ball, Scaldini, so, you know.
Scales is the only one that's safe right now, you know, where you just know nobody's getting in for Scales at the moment. Like Johnson might be injured, but then there's the Taylor thing. I say we're on for an hour and a bit, kind of chatting it all.
Yeah.
Laidlaw.
Give it a lot of Ross Laidlaw. See, I picked him up recently as well, so
Rakitic.
Rakitic's been amazing, yeah.
He's got too good a game. I can't not use him. And then I've got some guys playing in China.
Diego Andrade. They're probably not the big hitter China guys like Gustavo and Romulo and all those sort of guys. But yeah, you could play a forward card. And we're missing CCV. That's a shame. Probably put Johnson in D1. No, if you think Johnson's going to be playing, then he's the guy who's been hitting the big scores, right? So he said more hundreds than I think it's more hundreds than Taverni's had. So
jackpot. I'm just a wee bit worried about Johnson's fitness. That's all.
Aye, that was in my thinking as well. Although I've only, you know what I'm like, I do about 55 million drafts, but I've drafted it. I'm going to look at it again tomorrow. So.
I think I do need a team that has Kyogo in it up front. So I'm not too sure about Dyson. And I think Kyogo and Ida, you just know what you're getting out of both of them. One starts and one comes off the bench. Both of them very equally good chance of scoring.
I'm going to play Trusty. I think Trusty scored pretty well over there in Bergamo.
Mate, I got that before kickoff yesterday for £14. I couldn't believe how cheap somebody listed it. Nah, I think people seen Vickers was back in training and they're like, somebody just maybe crafted it and just tried to sell it or something. But I seen it, I was like, give me that.
Good pick.
So I could play Trusty. We think Trusty's pretty safe, don't we? I'm a wee tiny bit worried about Vickers. Makes me want to play this Halstenberg, but it's not really a great game for him. Or Hatate defender.
Yeah, he could play Rio. I guess the only thing is if he doesn't start, then you're losing the ability for the clean sheet. But yeah, I mean, I don't mind Trusty as well. I thought he was pretty solid, and I think the thing with Trusty as well is that like we've only just signed him, so sometimes you've got to give guys a wee bit of time to adapt. We never give anybody time. There's like somebody plays rotten for 3 games, then they're just a pure donkey and all that sort of stuff. But I mean, it's good to see he's actually starting to improve, if you know what I mean. And I think that takes the pressure off with Vickers as well, because Vickers been out for so long now. I don't see him just been chucked in. I don't know if you agree with that, but I'd be surprised if he started at the weekend. So
fair. And then, I guess my 5th man here is Hatate. I've got a Bernardo I've not used yet. I don't own an Engels.
No fancy a bit of James Forrest, no. Because Forrest can get an open bench as well. So
yeah, Forrest is quite. I've got a 15% Forrest.
Get it wired in. Get it wired in. So if he does start, he's been doing a bit of all around performance. I know he's not been starting as much, but you know that he's probably going to get some game time at some point, don't you? So I don't know.
Yeah, just feels a bit meh for D1. This team. I've got Shaqiri. I could play Shaqiri, but his game isn't. Broholm, my wee favourite guy in Norway, by the way. This would be a wee great player for us. They're related to Bodo Glimt spots. That's not any good. But Shaqiri is away to Winterthur or whatever you call them.
Yeah, they're pretty rank.
Yeah, they're pretty rank.
Average. They came up from the 1st division last season, Winterthur, so Shaqiri could be a decent option there as well.
Yeah, we know McGregor plays. Captain McGregor is away from home. Kyogo's just a goal machine or not. It's him or Dyson. Really. I think Dyson's shaky. Yeah, I think that's the way I'll go. So that's my Celtic teams for the weekend. Anyone cares? Quite easy to make these days. Losing some Japanese keepers. I need some more goalkeepers to come in. Maybe need to get myself a Mitov because Kasper Schmeichels are not cheap. Having one's kind of winning.
I got Jack Walton because the reason I bought him was Dundee United have actually got reasonable fixtures over December, etc. So I thought Dundee United done okay. So but he was only like 20 quid or something, Jack Walton, 20, 30 quid in season. So
really? That's not bad.
Yeah, it wasn't bad at all.
So aye, buzzing for the weekend. Wish us luck. Good luck to you, McBride, with whatever teams you knock out as well. And I'm sure we'll be back on the channel for some post-match Motherwell. Me and McBride will be back next Thursday for whatever we'll be talking about next Thursday. We had like no prep here. McBride came in and I said, "You're going to make us late." And he said, "Just hit the button." We just went. So, structure's a wee bit over the shop today. Thanks to everyone for persevering with a wee bit of the mumbling as I tried to make sure we were following some sort of thread. Really appreciate it. And
that was my fault.
Again, No, it's all good fun and games, mate. But again, thanks to everyone for all the kind words, all the good support we've had on the channel for the last weeks. It's been absolutely fantastic to see. Thank you very much. It really does mean a lot. Don't forget to subscribe, like, share, retweet, all that good stuff. Hail, hail. On the hoops. McBride.
On the hoops. Hail, hail.